Good afternoon. Welcome to the December 9th, 2025 Commissioners Meeting of the New York State Public Campaign Finance Board. I'm Barbara Lifton, Chair, and I'm joined today by Vice Chair Brian Cole and Commissioners Keisha Gaskins-Nathan, Henry Berger, Esma Bagnola, Anthony Casal, and Peter Kuczynski. Staff is here with us, and I'd like to have them, let's go around the room and have each staff introduce themselves, please. Shall we start here?
Raymond Riley, Co-Executive Director, State Board of Elections.
Carlo Lavello, Deputy Executive Director.
Carl Zielman, Co-Director, PCFB.
Daniel Bonsangue, Deputy Counsel, PCFB.
Bob Eccles, Deputy Director, PCFB.
Ann Tarpinian, Enforcement Counsel, PCFB.
Kathleen McGrath, Director of Public Information.
Jennifer Wilson, Deputy Director of Public Information.
Mark Sanger, Deputy Counsel, PCFB.
Skylar Conyer Kinnaman, Deputy Enforcement Counsel, PCFB.
Cheryl Kauser, Co-Director of PCFB.
Sal Conley, Deputy Executive Director, State Board.
Kristen Zabrowski-Stavitsky, Co-Executive Director, State Board of Elections.
That's it. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to begin our meeting today with an executive session for the purpose of enforcement matters. Is there a motion to go into executive session to discuss an enforcement matter?
So moved.
Mr. Casal is moved. Do I have a second? Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. We will go into executive session. We'll go into executive session for the purpose of enforcement matters. And if there's any action taken, we will come back into public session and make a report. Thank you all. We're returning into public session. During executive session, the board voted to issue a subpoena. The vote in executive session was unanimous. We'll now take up the minutes from August 6th, 2025 and September 10th, 2025. I'd like to take them up as a package. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None in opposition. The vote is unanimous. Thank you. The motion carries. We're going to do unit updates now. I want to turn to our co-directors for their unit updates. Are we starting with Cheryl today? Cheryl Kauser will begin with unit updates. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners, and welcome to the December 9th, 2025 meeting of the Public Campaign Finance Board. I'd like to point out that some of our senior staff of the program are participating in the Council of Governmental Ethics Laws, or COGL, in Atlanta, Georgia right now. This conference provides programming on public campaign finance, enforcement, compliance, and training. In fact, our council and senior staff presented in a pre-conference roundtable yesterday held by the Brennan Center. They were on the call from Atlanta. We have several important updates to share regarding the continued implementation and administration of New York State's Public Matching Funds Program. Since our last meeting, the Public Campaign Finance Unit has remained extremely active and engaged. Our staff has been diligently performing core operational tasks such as bank reconciliations, auditing participating PCFB committees, calculating surplus, and advancing enforcement actions in accordance with our rules and regulations. These will be covered more thoroughly in our unit update. As we continue to audit committees and calculate surplus for those committees who ran in the 2024 cycle, we continue preparation for the 2026 cycle, where we will oversee the administration of public matching funds to statewide candidates running for the offices of governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and comptroller, as well as the 213 state legislative offices. Now we'll take a few minutes to provide you with an update. For the 2026 program statistics, as of this morning, there were 192 total committees registered, of which 163 are certified in the 2026 election cycle. Itemized, that reflects 5 for governor, 5 for the state comptroller's office, 4 for attorney general office, 57 in the state senate, 120 in the state assembly, 1 undeclared candidate. Certification is required 4 months ahead of the primary election or February 23rd, 2026. To summarize an overview of the registrations, there are several candidates registered in each office, eligible office. The registrations for state legislature, which is state senate or state assembly, show a large geographic coverage of the state. There are candidates from several parties registered, demonstrating a bipartisan utilization of the program. All in all, the registrations demonstrate a broad statewide support for this program. Comparably, in our first cycle, at this time, through November 2023, there were 150 committees registered. In this cycle, through November 2025, we have 182 registered committees. That's a net 32 committees, about 21%. Moving on to the Assembly District 115 special election. I am pleased to report that the PCFB successfully administered its second special election. This is the first one since the August 7th statutory changes were in effect. The special election was held on November 5th, 2025 in Assembly District 115, which covers Clinton, Franklin, and Essex counties. Special elections present limited time constraints for administration. As such, staff provided on-demand treasurer and candidate training. Both committees set up their vendor accounts in the statewide financial system and initiated direct deposit in a timely fashion. This required close coordination between staff and committees to work under these tight deadlines. Both candidates maxed out in their receipt of public matching funds of $175,000 per committee. They were both able to achieve this payout by the 11-day pre-special report, leaving 2 unneeded payment opportunities. And all campaign financial disclosure reports were filed timely. In regards to our budget, the Division of Budget issued its call letter on October 9th, 2025. We worked with the State Board of Elections executive team and administrative office to compile a budget request for the state fiscal year 2026-27. Our budget is submitted as part of the New York State Board of Elections submission and to the Division of Budget on October 23rd. We are requesting approximately $116 million for state fiscal year 2026-27. This reflects $100 million for public matching funds to cover the special elections for 2026 and 217 offices statewide and state legislature up for election in 2026. Approximately $100 million is requested to support 118 full-time employees and approximately $6 million in funds for non-personal service or contracts, software, travel, equipment, supplies, and temporary service. There's a resolution 2025/15 on the agenda and new business that would take up this budget. For an update on the implementation of the August 7th statutory changes to the program, the board continues to implement the provisions of the statutory changes made to the program. The website and forms were updated with content. The handbook was updated and is undergoing a usability review and will be published soon. Regulations are on our agenda later on to be adopted. And we are working with committees on the new requirement that existing committees for the same office sought can be used in the 2026 cycle. We are also working with the 2026 committees now to ensure that they are certified, have their W-9s filed, opt in for direct deposit in the statewide financial system. We're doing this work now to get everyone ready for 2026. The program will be 100% direct deposit in 2026 as required in regulation. Committees are receiving direction from auditors, and an email will be sent out early in 2026 on this directive to all treasurers, candidates, and trusted contacts.
Thank you, Cheryl. Cheryl mentioned the global conference. I had the pleasure to attend the conference roundtable yesterday, flew back last night with Bob Eccles and myself. And just to hear the feedback from other states and cities that were sitting at the round table, basically highlighting the success of PCFB here, I just wanted to share that. As we head into and prepare for next year's elections, we continue to complete our auditing work for the 2024 cycle. PCFB staff has basically been looking at 3 groups of committees from the 2024 cycle. Group 1 are those committees that did not receive public matching funds. These are 64 committees where we focused, or the auditors focused, on compliance with election cycle contribution limits. All of those reviews were completed in Q2. These committees will now either convert to a compliance-only status or re-register for the 2026 cycle. The second group, these committees receive public matching funds. There are 117 committees that are undergoing a comprehensive reviews covering campaign expenditures, over-limit contributions, qualified expenditures, loans, et cetera. They also had their surplus calculation completed. All applicable surplus repayment notices were issued to the committees and payments have been received. To date, we've received $620,934.92 in surplus. In Group 3, there are 95 committees. These are those committees that were selected in the December 2024 lottery selection. They received their public matching funds, and I just give you a breakdown of who was selected in those committees. Those 52 committees in the Assembly, 43 committees in the Senate. Additionally, any committee that received more than $500,000 automatically made that entire district undergo a post-election audit, so they've been included. This includes Senate Districts 6 and 7. Draft audit reports are currently being issued to those committees. Once those committees receive those reports, they have 30 days to cure that finding if they have any. And then after that period, the final audit report will be issued and surplus calculation will be sent. I'll give you an update on the staffing of PCFB as it stands today. We have the authority to hire 118 full-time personnel. To date, 86 of those are filled. We continue to post and conduct interviews for positions such as trainers, auditors, and committee liaisons. Working with our friends in Public Information Office, PCFB has received and processed and responded to numerous PCFB-related foils from members of the media and interested parties since our last commissioner meeting. We are also working and gearing up for our second public awareness campaign for public campaign finance. This will basically work with to get the connection to the public through earned media and social media and basically raise the awareness not only of the program but of the general election itself. We are working with the Office of General Services right now to do the RFP on that. Social media, excuse me. Again, we work real close with the PIO's office, and most recently, we just started a two-weekly social media series for PCFB in the recent weeks and months. One is Public Fundamentals, and it highlights all of the program requirements of the PCFB program, and it's especially helpful with the recent amendments and changes. And then again, we have Tuesday's Tips for Treasurers. It provides helpful tips for treasurers as they navigate their important responsibility as a treasurer in the program. PIO has also posted information on the PCFB social media accounts regarding new scheduled training for EFS web application training of the electronic finance system. And they have obviously announced today's PCFB meeting. While these accounts are still small in numbers, we've steadily increased the followers on our three major platforms. Those are Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter. I'll move into an enforcement update for you. The enforcement unit is charged with enforcing the requirements of the PCFB program, including but not limited to ensuring the timeliness of campaign financial disclosure reports, handling complaints to the board, investigations, and working with other jurisdictions on enforcement matters. Since our last meeting, the PCFB enforcement unit has collected $3,942.50 in penalties for late file disclosure reports. They've conducted an administrative hearing before a hearing officer, which found in the positive for the PCFB in a late filing case. And they filed electronically in order to show cause in Albany Supreme Court seeking judgment for late filing penalties against 12 committees. Each of these committees were served with a process server. Finally, I'll give you an update on our training unit, which has been very, very busy. The PCFB training team has delivered various trainings, both externally and internally, to include new treasurer and candidate trainings, which provides an overview of the program, outlines responsibilities, and basically covers the qualifying match for funds and contribution limits. PCFB is also, the training department has also delivered training on the EFS software to assist those committees in having a better understanding of how software is used to file reports and supporting documentation. We've seen new staff come on board with us in recent months, and not only are new staff going through the new internal training, we are also having existing staff go through refresher training to focus on updated PCFB procedures and regulations, since some of these have changed. And I'd like to share with you some of those metrics from the training unit. Externally, we've had 3 treasurer trainings in the month of November with 35 attendees. 1 candidate training was held during November with 52 attendees. 5 sessions on the EFS, electronic filing software system, live demo commenced in October. We had 89 attendees on that training alone. 15 treasurers have already completed their training requirement for the 2026 cycle. 30 candidates have fully completed their training for the 2026 cycle. And I will end with this. The PCFB training unit has a total of 21 public trainings already scheduled between now and April 2026. These include 9 treasurer trainings, 10 candidate trainings, and 2 additional EFS trainings. Finally, the program calendar will be released when the State Board of Elections political calendar is released. With that, that concludes my report, Commissioners.
Thank you very much, Carl. Having no old business, we'll now turn to new business. We have 9 resolutions and 1 advisory opinion to take up. Aaron and Daniel will provide an overview of the resolutions related to the regulations. Aaron.
Thank you, Commissioner. So the first resolution 25-11 is the final adoption of the edits that were made to the program regulations that were taken up in the last August board meeting. These amendments incorporate edits from 2 public comments that were received that clarified the applicability of the $250 match in the primary election. And again, this will be to finally adopt these regulations and submit it through the SAPA process.
Thank you. That's all of them?
I believe Danny is going to take the other 2.
Sorry, I thought we were taking it one by one.
I don't know. Brought out 2 guys to figure out.
You want to do one by one or all in a pack? Let's do.
I was assuming each one would be briefly explained.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So the next one on the list is a 24-hour notice reg. These are amendments made by staff initiative in response to issues related to reporting of loans made by the candidate to their own committee that led to enforcement matters. So previously, there was regulation, even pre-Public Campaign Finance Board, that contributions and loans over $1,000 received within 14 days prior to an election must be reported within 24 hours. So we amended that part of the regulations, which is 6,200, to add that participants in the Public Campaign Finance Program must report those contributions and loans made to the authorized committee by the candidate, the candidate's spouse, and unemancipated children within 24 hours during the entire election year. So from the end of the January periodic in the year that the election is through the January periodic after the election. We also added the words loan and lender to 6,200. That was just to make it consistent with 14-108 of the election law. So 622-113 is in PCFB regulation that applies to contributions received from the candidate's spouse, or unemancipated children. Again, it applies between the close of the January periodic in the calendar year of the candidate's primary and general election through the January periodic following the election. 622115 applies to loans received by the committee from the candidate's spouse, or candidate's unemancipated children. Same time period applies. The only difference between those two is that for the loan, the 24-hour notice statement must have evidence of indebtedness. This is obviously to ensure it's not a contribution and it'll be repaid later. With both loans and contributions, the report must be made by a letter signed by the treasurer of the committee receiving the loan and may be filed via electronic transmission. And then it also has to be disclosed on the next regularly filed campaign financial disclosure statement. And these requirements also apply to specials.
Is that D? Was that the last one?
That was B.
B. I'm
The,
using numbers that didn't work here, so I wasn't sure where we were.
oh, sorry, yeah, this was the 24-hour notice. Anybody have any questions?
Let's see, one of you gonna explain
So
C?
the next one is, Governor, Lieutenant Governor regs. So these were changes made in response to legislative changes made to both the election law and the public campaign finance law. The election law obviously merging the ticket. So candidates running jointly for governor and lieutenant governor continue to be, or considered to be a single candidate for the same elective office. They have to have one authorized committee. It's controlled by the governor, but the lieutenant governor candidate, or the governor candidate, but the lieutenant governor candidate is also subject to all the rules of the program. All contributions and expenditures will come through that one committee, and all matching funds payments will be paid to that committee. Any existing committee associated with the candidate for lieutenant governor must cease operations or cease accepting contributions and loans and making expenditures, but that candidate may transfer the funds that were in that previous committee into the joint political committee. Candidates may jointly or separately register for the program, but in order to receive public matching funds, both candidates must jointly submit the application certification. As with other legislative and other statewide office candidates, candidates for governor and lieutenant governor are subject to eligibility criteria that could prevent the governor and lieutenant governor candidates from being eligible for public matching funds. So this is the aggregate contribution limits, the candidate aggregate contribution limit, which is, and loan limit, which is 3 times the applicable contribution limit, as well as monetary and contribution thresholds. Contributions made from an individual to both candidates shall be combined for the purposes of the monetary threshold. However, they will only count once for the purpose of the matchable contribution threshold. In determining the aggregate contribution, aggregate amounts of contributions and loans made to the candidate for governor and contributions and loans made to the candidate for lieutenant governor that are both received during the election cycle will be combined for the purposes of calculating aggregate amounts. However, contributions made to candidates who appeared on the ballot for different elective offices or for state assembly and state senate in the previous election, 2-year election cycle, but within the 4-year election cycle, they will not be combined. As with other offices, contributions over $10.50 shall not be matched unless the overage is returned. Candidates running jointly will be jointly and severally liable for penalties. Candidate committees are subject to the surplus and repayment, and the receipts and expenditures from both the candidates separate, if it existed, a separate authorized political committee that existed before the joint committee, but during the election cycle, will be combined with the receipts and expenditures of the joint authorized political committee during the election cycle for the purposes of calculating the surplus. And funds that remain in the committee account will be controlled by the governor, candidate, and can be used for any lawful purpose. And then at the very end of the regulations, there's amendments to 622134 A1 and A5, and those just fix typos and clarify some things.
Thank you.
Can I just go?
No, yes.
Just to clarify,
Discussion.
right now we have individuals who've indicated they're running for governor and registered the program. I take it no one is registered to run for lieutenant governor yet.
That's correct.
So the way it would work is if a candidate for governor, a person running for governor is already filed, and then they decide to choose someone to be lieutenant governor, they just add them to their committee? Is there a form?
That person, there is a form, right, and that person would
They
have
get
to
added, is that how?
also
they get added
register.
to it? Okay, and do we have any other outstanding candidates for lieutenant governor from previous years?
Not that I know of.
Current lieutenant governor is not running obviously for that job again, but it's,
Right.
okay. No, but I'm looking at the mechanics, how it all works, and
Sure.
so the public knows what's going on. I mean,
Right.
that's my whole interest here. All right, so, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We got,
Yeah.
still,
The
okay.
enforcement.
Yeah,
Ian,
thank you.
thank you.
So Resolution 14 involves emergency amendments for enforcement regulations and procedures. These are not as much substantive as they are for efficiency and to clarify, enforcement procedures and protocols and streamline the processes for more efficient administration of the enforcement process. I'll give you some examples. For example, for complaints, oftentimes we need to triage which complaints are not within our jurisdiction. So these amendments allow for us to dismiss those more easily when we just simply don't have jurisdiction over those complaints. Another is to formalize a resolution that this board previously approved this year, which allowed staff to issue notices of enforcement and begin a process for late filing without first going to the board for approval. But within 24 hours, we do provide notice to the board. And it just sort of tightens the timeframe, so we don't always have to wait for a board meeting to move forward. Another clarification, or actually this is a saves resources a change, is that when there's a violation of a late filing, it used to be that there was an opportunity for an in-person hearing. So this streamlines the process so that only when there is no factual, it's just a straight up issue of whether or not, the timely filing happened and the argument can be made on the papers, that's how that's going to go from here on out. And then just one more is that the timeframes for late filing penalties that are capped currently, this just kind of puts them in line. Before it was the penalty cap for late filing with it's $50 a day with $1,000 additional cap, and for 20 days for all offices sought instead of an extra like 25 days and 35 for other, like the governor's office or the comptroller. So that just sort of simplifies that procedure. So that's a type of emergency, amendments that this is in front before you regarding enforcement.
Thank you very much, Ann. I'd like to take resolutions 11, 12, 13, and 14 related to regulations up as a package. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Madam Chair,
Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a discussion.
Commissioner Kozinski.
Yes. This is on resolution 14, the one that was just discussed on enforcement. So I have an issue with, actually, it's an existing portion of this. It's not even a change, but I've raised this with staff, and I was making an effort to get a change, but I, haven't been successful. So I wanted to raise it at the board meeting. This is the very last paragraph of this particular regulation. I would just, for those who want to follow along, it'd be on your last page. The very last paragraph, which speaks of a penalty above the standard amount, may be issued if the violation is found to have been willful or the result of reckless disregard of the law. I think that's an issue as it relates to how we impose penalties on our committees. This would really open up the whole idea of a schedule of penalties that we have identified and adopted for particular violations. This now says that if the staff, I guess, determines that it's a willful violation, that any penalty can be imposed. I think that's way too open. I think that goes against the idea that we've tried to have a standardized penalty system with these committees. I don't know who's going to determine what's willful. I don't know how that gets decided. Willful is typically a criminal standard. In fact, in the statute that created the criminal or the penalties for this program, there's a provision that if a candidate or anyone in the program willfully violates the provisions, it's a misdemeanor. That's something that, of course, would then kick into the criminal element, and would be something a district attorney or the Attorney General, whoever the appropriate entity is, would then pursue as a criminal matter, which I think is appropriate. But I think to have that as part of our penalty phase is inappropriate. I think that we have a schedule. We should have the schedule adopted that follows everybody the same way, and this goes against that. I certainly do support, and I again had this discussion with staff. I would support something that has, for repeat offenders, should be given a higher penalty. I agree with that. If that's what this is trying to get at, I don't know if it is, but if it is, I certainly support the idea that if we have committees or someone in the program who, repeatedly violates the law, particularly after having been noticed, that there should be a higher penalty imposed upon them. And I think that's the kind of standard we should adopt. But I just am not comfortable with this. I don't think this is an appropriate way to go. I think it just opens up the system, way too much. And I think this idea that we're going to determine who's willful and who's not goes to the state of mind of someone that's actually in the program. And I don't know how we, as either staff or frankly as a board, can make these determinations. So I think that is a standard that we should remove from this, and we should adopt something else. And I have to say, I'm just not ready to support these regulations with that language still in there.
Thank you, Peter. Any other discussion on this matter? Henry? Mr. Berger?
I have two concerns about the suggestions, I guess. One is when these resolutions were originally adopted, they were adopted unanimously by the board before my time, but looking at the records, they were all adopted unanimously. And part of the concept then was that we would run these regulations essentially as they are through this cycle, through the 26th cycle, the first full cycle, and see how they worked and see if there were any problems with them. I think we should let that process work out. If there are problems, we'll certainly have the opportunity to deal with them. The other issue is that whatever decisions the staff makes are recommendations to this board. This board makes the final determination. And I think we're in a position to deal with them as we have to deal with them then when a specific recommendation comes to us. A finding of willfulness would certainly have to be fully supported for this board to approve the recommendation. I think that the appropriate stance now is to proceed as the board originally decided, to go through the cycle. We have another 11 months and a few days. Let's see how it works out. So far, it's working out pretty well. And at that point, we should do a full analysis as we are required by law to do. And we will make any changes that are necessary. I think the suggestions about repeat offenders is a good idea, but let's see if it's really an issue. And we can deal with it after the cycle is over. This is not the time to make these changes. I think we have a resolution to approve all four of these. Is that correct?
Yes, but we're still in discussion here, and I see Commissioner Gaskins.
I just have a quick question, and maybe Enforcement Council can help me understand this. If the concern is an inability to respond to whether or not something was willful, it looks like the remainder of this says, following an issue of a notice of enforcement, the party would be given an opportunity to respond to the allegation that acted willfully or with reckless disregard. So the ability to respond to that is built in, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so it does kind of address the concern that the willfulness is arbitrary, that there's a direct opportunity to respond with something that's issued, even under the existing regs, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Peter, Commissioner Berger seems to have spoken to your concerns about giving too much discretion to staff here. Do you?
Yeah, that's not really my concern. As I said, initially, I think the willful standard is also something this board really isn't equipped to determine any more than the staff is. So it's not really just a staff issue. It's, I think, just this board doesn't really have the capability of determining willfulness in the real sense of that term, because that's typically something done in a courtroom, done after testimony, done by someone who hears all sides and then makes a determination in that context. And again, I think it rises to the level of criminal activity as the statute identifies. So listen, I appreciate the commissioner's thoughts. I just am not comfortable with this. As I said, I'm not prepared to vote for this. I would prefer and I would request that this resolution be taken out rather than doing a package of all four, that we take them individually and have individual votes.
Okay. I'm happy to do that. Any other discussion before I proceed on that? We'll take up each resolution separately for a vote. Let's look at A, first resolution. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 11. Thank you. Any opposed? Unanimous vote on resolution 2511. B, resolution 2512. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Sorry, we have a delay there a little bit with the videos. Any in opposition? That resolution passes unanimously. The third resolution, 2513. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution also passes unanimously. Last resolution, 2514. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
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 That three? Do I count three?
Yes.
In opposition?
Mhm.
3 opposed. 4-3 there. The motion carries 4-3. Thank you all very much on that. Now I would like to approve the resolution 2515 on our budget request, which was described in the unit report. Do I have a motion on our budget request?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And this vote on that. Thank you. And now I would like to take up resolutions 16, 17, 18, and 19, dealing with enforcement actions. I'd like to take this up as a package. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of these four resolutions dealing with enforcement actions?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Again, a unanimous vote in favor of the motion to take them up as to pass them as a package. Thank you very much. Now, lastly, I'd like to take up advisory opinion 2025-1. Do we need to? I don't know whether we want to do a description of that.
I think we should.
We should? Okay, Aaron, I think you're up on this one, on the advisory opinion on security expenses. Aaron?
I believe Mark Sattinger was going to.
Oh, Mark, sorry.
Thank
you, Mark.
Advisory addresses whether the authorized committee and candidate participating in the public campaign finance program can use public matching funds to pay for security measures, including non-structural security devices, structural security devices, professional security personnel and services, and cybersecurity. And the answer is presumptively yes. However, those public matching funds cannot be used for things that do not comply with the law, for things that are not proportional or reasonable, that are not compliant with the time restrictions on the use of public matching funds. And what we say here is that public matching funds must be reasonable in terms of cost, scope, and duration. And furthermore, must comply with any other restrictions or prohibitions on the use of public matching funds. The short and long of this is that we hope that public matching funds will be used for to counter bona fide threats to candidates, their families, and their staff. They will not be wasted. And the final point is that the staff and the board will be watching to make sure those public matching funds are used properly.
Thank you, Mark. Do I have a motion
And
to
we have
adopt?
a question.
Let's get a motion first and a second. Yes,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
yes, motion on that?
So moved.
A second, please.
Second.
Thank you. A discussion.
Question. So this applies to personnel. So if if a candidate wishes to hire a professional person as a bodyguard, if you will, or security personnel, It says here they must be licensed and professionally trained. Who sets, what standards are we using for that?
So, my understanding is that the state actually licensed security personnel. There's a
The
license.
state licensed security personnel, but does a state license, what if the person is not a licensed security officer, but say, a retired police officer? Have you been, just saying,
It's a good question. It is one we considered, and that's where we put in professional security services. The other restriction on the use of public matching funds for security services is that public matching funds can't be used for like family members
No,
or.
I understand that, but I think you just want to be careful in definition because there's three different distinctions. There's police officers, peace officers, and licensed security people. I did this in my previous life at another agency. We dealt with this. And it's always a question of how you define it. I just want to be sure they're all included. I don't want to be, so if the candidate wants to hire a former police officer, a lot of them do. Used to hire them as drivers, now they hire them as both drivers and security people, okay. But also, if someone is a peace officer in New York State, there's a distinction. Peace officer can't carry a weapon unless they've got a separate license for that. And that's the other issue too. Are we gonna let them be licensed? They have to be licensed to carry. I just want to be sure that we don't get into a problem where somebody is hired and then halfway through the campaign, wait a second, this guy doesn't qualify for funds because he didn't check all the boxes.
My answer to that is essentially that we'll be looking to make sure that they are licensed, and if not licensed, that they are professionally trained.
So
that they are-
a police officer, a retired police officer would qualify. And of course, a licensed security guard would qualify too. They're licensed by the Department of State, I believe. Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion on that? Okay, thank you. We've had the motion and second. And so all in favor of this advisory opinion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for everyone joining us via video today. And we will schedule our next meeting at a later date. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous vote. Thank you all very much. The meeting is adjourned.